I've been there. You see a $30 envelope folder on a marketplace, you think you found a bargain, you plug it in, and after a few weeks the machine jams, the folds look crooked, and you end up spending more time fixing it than you saved. That regret is what makes me pause before buying any kind of mailroom equipment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In today's video, I'm going to walk through whether the Intimus A0111771 TSI 2.5 folder inserter actually feels like a smarter buy, or if it's just another shiny promise that will leave you with a pile of half-finished mail. First off, let's talk about the problem it's trying to solve. Small to mid-size offices often have a steady flow of invoices, statements, or promotional flyers that need to be folded, slipped into envelopes, and sealed. Doing that by hand works when you're sending a few dozen pieces a week, but as soon as you hit a few hundred, the repetitive motion becomes a productivity killer and the consistency of each fold drops dramatically. The market is flooded with budget machines that either only fold or only insert, forcing you to buy a second device or to keep a person on a manual assembly line. That's why a combined folder inserter that can handle both steps in one pass is appealing if it actually does the job without constant babysitting. The Intimus TSI 2.5 is positioned squarely in that niche. It sits on a tabletop, takes a 5-inch color touchscreen for programming, and promises quiet operation while folding, inserting, and sealing up to about 4,000 envelopes a month. Those numbers translate to roughly 130 envelopes a day if you run it 8 hours, which is a realistic target for a busy accounting department or a marketing team that sends out weekly newsletters. The real question is whether that capacity feels reachable in everyday use, or if you'll end up hitting a hidden bottleneck. From a practical standpoint, the biggest strength I see is the integrated workflow. Once you've set the desired fold style on the touchscreen, the machine pulls a stack of paper, folds it, feeds it into an envelope feeder, inserts the folded piece, and finally applies a seal, all without you having to intervene. In a typical office setting, that means one person can load a few hundred sheets, start the cycle, and walk away while the machine does the heavy lifting. The quiet motor is a relief too. On an open-plan floor, the software doesn't drown out conversations, so you can keep the device running during normal business hours without annoying coworkers. Another practical upside is the footprint. The unit is compact enough to sit on a standard desk, which is a relief for companies that don't have a dedicated mailroom. I've seen setups where the folder inserter sits next to a printer, sharing a power strip, and still leaves room for a stack of paper trays. For startups that are still figuring out how much mail they'll send, that flexibility can be a money saver because you don't have to re-engineer a space later. Now, where the machine shows its limits is in the speed and envelope size range. The advertised 4,000 envelopes per month figure assumes a steady, uninterrupted run and the use of standard 2-inch by 3-inch envelopes. If you're trying to process larger catalogs, thick brochures, or customized mailers, you'll quickly discover the feeder struggles to grip the material, and the folding blades may not handle the extra bulk without a jam. In those cases, you'd either need to slow the cycle down or pre-sort the jobs, which eats into the time-saving promise. Maintenance is another hidden trade-off. The machine has a few moving parts, a set of rollers, a folding mechanism, and an insertion belt, all of which need occasional cleaning to keep the paper path free of dust. The user manual suggests a quick wipe down after each shift if you're running high volumes. For an office that only runs the device a few times a week, that extra step might feel like an unnecessary chore, especially if you're already juggling multiple administrative tasks. Who should consider adding the Intimus TSI 2.5 to their workflow? If you're a small business that sends out regular invoices, a nonprofit that mails donor newsletters, or a marketing team that needs to ship out promotional flyers on a weekly cadence, the device hits a sweet spot. It takes the manual labor out of the equation, reduces the risk of inconsistent folds, and does it all without demanding a separate folder and inserter. The quiet operation also makes it suitable for environments where noise is a concern, think co-working spaces or open offices. Who might want to skip it? If your mail volume stays under a couple of hundred envelopes a month, the cost of the unit probably outweighs the labor you'd save. Likewise, if you routinely handle oversized envelopes, heavy cardstock, or multi-page booklets, you'll likely run into the size limitations and end up needing a more industrial-grade inserter. In those scenarios, a manual folding station combined with a simple envelope feeder might be a more flexible and cheaper solution.